Welcome to Listen Bitch Presents Tell Me Why You're Special. This is the arena where we don't just talk about success, we talk about the price. Because the truth is, most people don't fail because they're lazy. They fail because they're exhausted. They're overworked, they're overstimulated. So many people are just overcommitted. And you've got more information than ever before, but less clarity than you've ever had. And somewhere along the way, you just start believing the answer is to work harder, push harder, do more until eventually your body starts keeping score. And God designed us to work, but He didn't design us to destroy ourselves in the process. So today we're going to talk about burnout, resilience, accountability, discipline, elite performance, and why doing more isn't always the answer. Today's guest is Jim Laird. He is a strength and conditioning coach with nearly 3 decades of experience working with elite athletes, high performers, and everyday people trying to rebuild their health and their lives. So, Jim, I just want to say thank you so much for coming into the hot seat today. You have worked with professional athletes, executives, high performers for all this time. What is the biggest lie that you've watched successful people tell themselves over and over?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that more work always equals better results. And so people that are type A high achievers, which is who I tend to attract, when they see a problem, they think that doing more work is going to be the answer. And sometimes it's not. Sometimes it makes the problem worse.
What does burnout look like before people themselves actually realize it? What's the pattern that you can see about them just being secretly exhausted?
Well, it depends. For my situation, I was using training and work to deal with a lot of the demons from my past, and I wasn't willing to actually sit quietly and deal with a lot of these issues. So I was using the work as a distraction, and I had signs of fatigue that I just pushed through with caffeine, with hard heavy music, harder training, more work. And then eventually I ended up getting ulcerative colitis, and I had to change my strategy. I'll see women, that are gaining weight, so they like, I'm going to start running marathons, or I'm going to do an extra cardio session a day, instead of looking at their overall lifestyle of why they're not sleeping, they're not eating as well as they should. Uh, they're looking to basically do something, to take action. A lot of the people, a lot of the athletes I train, I'll have people, a one woman that I worked with who's a high jumper. She would do so many pull-ups, she'd rip the skin off her hands, and or she'd hurt her back doing power cleans. A lot of the CrossFit, I worked with a lot of CrossFit athletes in the past, and they would just they have this set in their mind that they had to go to failure all the time. And the idea to get better in performance is to basically do enough to challenge yourself to get better, but you don't constantly want to destroy yourself. You got to pick and choose your when you do that, right? And so
Yeah.
a lot of athletes that I've worked with, they either hurt themselves in the weight room, or they just didn't do a very good job of what I call working in or resting more. So they can, the harder you drive your car, the more maintenance is required, and that's something a lot of people don't even consider, that are like high performers, high achievers.
Yeah. Why do you feel like so many people that's their go-to? The working harder is the answer.
Well, because they've had success with it in the past. Like in my early 20s, I got to play college football. I got to play at a higher level because I outworked everyone else. And so you kind of get addicted to that feeling of pushing, that cortisol feeling. You get addicted to that, and when you basically, it's kind of like, if I gave, a type A person, my typical client, if I say, go into the forest, here's an axe, cut me down 2 trees. A normal person would maybe cut down one and cut down two and be done. A type A person, somebody like me, will get done with the 2 trees and be like, well, there's all these other trees standing here, I'm just going to cut them all down.
Yeah.
you know and
Yeah.
so that's the kind of mentality that a lot of people get stuck in, and I think a lot of it has to do with our constant go culture. And a lot of it is the fitness industry itself. You look at like The Biggest Loser, let's burn it off. Like, burning calories off is almost impossible. Like, most people have enough body fat on them to walk like halfway across the country
Right.
as far as energy is concerned. And
Hmm.
they think they're going to burn it off. No, you want to sleep. You want to take care of yourself.
Yep.
Exercise is an important part of it, but you're actually not going to burn that off, by doing physical activity. Most people don't have the ability to train at that level to do that.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, just based on our culture, is like, well, it's more work's got to be the answer,
Yeah.
or I use the example of like, hey, let's go outside and cut this tree down with a baseball bat. I'm working really, really hard, but I need an axe, or and a lot of women fall into they'll do a lot of exercise classes, or they'll do spinning classes, and they're working really hard, but it's not really giving them the result that they want. It's not the right tool for the job. And then you have modern life, which you talked about this. You did a really nice job on the intro talking about this. Modern life to me is getting in a car, is sitting in your driveway and revving the hell out of it and never going anywhere.
Yeah.
So you've got these people that are basically on their phone all day. They're exhausted. They're sleep deprived. And then they're like, well, I'm gaining weight, or I don't feel good. Well, I need more energy. So I'm going to take a peptide or a supplement, and then I'm going to go to the gym. And so they've got this car that needs the oil change. It really needs maintenance on the engine because it's been getting revved the hell out of.
Hmm.
And they try and drive the car that needs maintenance harder. And exercise can be maintenance for the human body,
Yep.
but a lot of times most people just need to slow down a little bit, become present, get into rest and digest, so their body can actually, recover, recoup, rebuild capacity, so you can push hard.
Yeah. I love that. And going back to something you kind of said, how women are built different. And I think,
Yes.
there haven't been a lot of studies on this thing. And I tell people all the time, like, you've just got to find really what works for you. And I tried the
Mhm.
4 a.m. club, going to the gym and getting my workouts in, and nothing was happening. But that's because my cortisol was still spiked. And I was like, losing sleep and stressing out, doing stressful workouts. Now I'm 34 pounds down since January, and I do lazy walks and I lift
Mhm.
heavy ass weight. Like there's
Nice.
no, there's no like killing myself doing all these
Hmm.
crazy things because that cortisol was poisoning me. I needed to drop that. I don't know if that'd be the same for every woman. It just sucks that there's not enough
Yeah.
studies on it.
Physiologically, women are set up a little differently to be nurturers. And
Yeah.
you can burn me upside down with a steak if you like. But men are typically designed to handle more stress.
Yeah.
They're hormonally more resilient. They can handle more abuse, and that's generally why we die younger.
Yeah.
But women traditionally are more cultural creatures. They're more about community, more about um, sharing feelings, emotions, those sorts of
Yeah.
things. And I have a woman who actually looks very similar to you, with like really long, pretty black hair, that I
Yeah.
worked with for years in Lexington. Her name was Rachel, and I did a podcast with her. You can still find it on the website itself. It was called Body IO FM. I had a podcast on there, but I think you can still find it on one of the podcasting platforms. But basically, it was a woman who highly successful, PhD, doctor of pharmacology, was working 3 jobs, 3 kids, was gaining weight, was training every day, and basically her coach at the time told her she needed to do a second cardio session each day. And we went through, it was a long process of me basically convincing her that she needed to do less, she
Less.
needed to sleep more, she needed to take care of herself, and she made an incredible transformation. But we went through the mental gymnastics that she was going through
That.
when I was telling her, hey, like let's lift 3 days a week, let's walk, let's focus on spending time with your kids, doing some
Yep.
enjoyable things instead of just constantly work. Because she was getting in bed at like 11, 12 at night, and then getting up at 4 in the morning, and I'm just
Yep.
like, and then she would go to do a hard workout, and of course she's exhausted, she's running on caffeine, and then she'll, like most women, will go do a spinning class, or they'll do a cardio class, and they're like, oh, I just trained so hard, so I'm going to have my favorite mocha
Mm.
frappuccini, chi drink or whatever, and it's got like 1,200 calories in it, and then
Yeah.
they wash down cheesecake with it. They just blasted 3,000 calories right there, and so it's
Yeah.
like, um, getting her to, and I've saved tons of women from running marathons. I don't know why they think running marathons is going to make them look better.
Yeah.
But a lot of women get this in their mind. I'm going to lose body fat if I run marathons.
Yeah.
And a lot of times the exercise just increases your appetite, particularly for refined starch,
Yeah.
which doesn't necessarily give women the most women want to look more like an athlete than I would say
Right.
like a marathon type runner. Not that marathon runners aren't athletes, but like they want to look more like a volleyball player or
Right.
something like that, as opposed to, uh, you know, marathon runner.
Yeah. I lost you there a little bit. I just heard the very end of that about the
Okay,
marathon runner, but I'll switch gears here for us.
sure.
Just rebuilding your own health multiple
Hmm.
times. Um,
Yes,
what does that experience teach you on how everything needs to be engaged? It's not just going to be your physical, mental, but it includes
sure.
emotional too.
Oh, absolutely. Community is a big part of it. The first part, when I got colitis in like '08, I had a lot of anger and resentment. I needed to forgive myself, and I needed to forgive some from people from my past, particularly my childhood. And I was able to learn how to relax, and I got myself in a better place through diet and learning how to actually relax and decompress. And then several years later, I ended up getting a staph infection from a pedicure.
Oh,
As a coach or a trainer, you're basically in the gym all day and you're sweating. And my feet were not great. And I was dating a young lady at the time who basically was like, "I'm not messing with you at all until you get your feet taken care of." And I was just like, "All right." So I went and did this thing called a pedicure, and like several days later, I was in the emergency room, preparing to have my leg amputated because I had a massive staph infection.
wow.
And so they got that taken care of with antibiotics, but I'll speed this up a little bit. But basically, they told me that the infection would come back consistently over time. Okay. And it did. It was coming back constantly. I was getting sepsis repeatedly over and over. The antibiotics weren't working. And I ran into a guy named Dr. Jack Cruz, who's a very inflammatory, confrontational neurosurgeon guy. And he's big on like circadian biology, getting outside and all that stuff. And he was like, "When's the last time you got outside?" I'm like, "Well, I start work at 5 in the morning and I go to 8 at night." Essentially, he's like, the sun runs your immune system, it runs your hormones, your digestion, everything's run by the sun. And he's like, "That's why your immune system is struggling to deal with this problem." And I was like, "Okay." So he's like, "You need to get outside every day,
Mm-hmm.
multiple times a day." So I fired all my morning clients, basically got outside in the morning till about 10 o'clock. And then I put a red light in my gym. Kept the doors open. And and he was like, "You're a human zoo animal." So my goal was to not be a zoo animal. And so I basically haven't had a serious infection since I did that. I was getting multiple infections a year. And so that really pushed me towards moving to Florida. And now I'm in Nicaragua because I want to live a more outdoor life.
Yeah.
And with COVID, when COVID hit, I don't even know if I'm allowed to say that word anymore, but when the
Yeah.
thing hit, um, I thought, hey, I had some property just outside of Lexington, Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
No Wi-Fi, no electricity, a cabin. I'm like, I'm going to be superhuman. I'm like, I'm out here with no Wi-Fi. I'm going to be out in nature. I'm going to be in the sun all day. Within a week, I was making like wine runs because I was so depressed because
Yeah.
I was by myself. I was in a perfect environment, but I was miserable because my gym was closed. I didn't really interact with anybody. I was depressed. Was going to, I usually don't eat stuff like Dairy Queen and stuff, but I was doing blizzard runs. I was
Yeah.
completely depressed. And then when I moved to Nicaragua, the plan was to open a gym on the beach, and I was working with a medical doctor, and we were going to bring people down here. And that didn't work out, so I didn't have, I wasn't working with people in person, which really I love working with people in person.
Yeah.
I don't like the internet. I mean, part of what I have to do is work on the internet, but I don't like working on the internet, and I don't like working with people. I like working with people virtually, but I just don't like being on the phone. I don't like being on the screen. And so I don't like how much time I'm on the phone. And so when I moved here, I was, on the phone constantly because I was using that as kind of, you know, reducing boredom. I was living in a rainforest, spending time in nature, and I was miserable.
Yeah.
Then I ended up coaching baseball here, and it kind of happened in a weird way. It was not expected, but that kind of gave me some social connections. So it's really a complete 10 minutes after each meal every day. That's going to help with digestion, blood sugar, getting you outside, fixing your circadian rhythm, going to help your sleep. It's going to help with appetite regulation. Most people today, the reason why people are needing so many GLPs, your body makes GLP, but if your circadian rhythm is broken and you're under a lot of stress, your body
It can't
GLPs
do.
get it's dysregulated.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are using GLPs to just patch a bad lifestyle, right? So getting
Yeah.
outside is going to help you regulate appetite, and then you combine the, broken circadian rhythm with ultra processed food. It's just going to turn you into, and plus this doom scrolling, it's just going to turn you into a human vacuum cleaner,
Yeah.
and you're not going to be able to stop eating. So of course they have a solution for that, of
Yeah.
course, within the shot.
Yep.
Um, it can be used effectively if combined with habit change and microdosing. We won't get into that, but I have worked with people that have done it successfully, but
Yeah.
most people just take the big shot and they don't build habits, and then they end
Yeah.
up in a worse case than they were before. Um, and then drink high quality water, preferably spring water. Uh, Eat a protein at every meal, a fistful. That's super important for keeping muscle mass. It actually helps you sleep better because a lot of the things you need for sleep come from amino acids. And then it also helps regulate your appetite and control blood sugar. And then get the lights off at night. That's a biggie. People are on their phone late at night. It destroys their melatonin. Uh, it's going to destroy your sleep, which is going to lead to bad choices and not good things. And the last one's community. If you don't have community, you're not going to be in a good place. If I think the model for this is like the 1970s. If you go back to the 1970s,
Yeah.
I'm 51 years old, so I was born in 75. If you look at pictures from Woodstock, if you look at pictures from the beach in the 1970s, uh,
Nobody's
people were
fat.
not fat. There was not people didn't go to the gym. Very few
Yeah.
people went to the gym, only like your bodybuilders and stuff. But people were active. They played outside. They did a lot of physical education type stuff. They were active. They mowed grass. They worked on their cars. They were active. There was three channels on the TV, so people weren't up scrolling their Netflix at 2 o'clock in the morning. People went to church together. They did things together. Uh, Life was much more a slower pace, and you didn't have the obesity. And then what happened is you got rid of the incandescent bulb. You switched to fluorescence. You have millions of channels on the TV. I think the real obesity epidemic came with the iPhone. And it's
Oh,
just, ever since
I
that,
agree.
it's just been absolute destruction.
Yeah.
I mean, we need to get back to more of a lifestyle of the 1970s because our environment drives a lot of these issues that we're having.
Yeah.
And so we've basically been turned into an indoor zoo animal, which essentially, like the phone is a slot machine, which basically turns you into a complacent, compliant consumer.
Yeah. This is a different show, but I have a political podcast, and I run a rebellion season right now where that's everything I talk about. The fact
Right.
that this is exactly, they have you where they want you, and they want people
Yeah.
asking for the quick fix. And what is the very simple thing that you're talking about, Jim? It's easy. Get some sunshine, get some
Mhm.
sleep. Like, it's
Yeah.
such simple stuff. And that's why I'm saying with women, I watch it. I watch it in women I've worked with who, have everything and they're super depressed and they're miserable. And I think, it's that hustle culture was once upon a time a big thing. And we have to
Yeah.
heal from that now collectively, which means, not in a way, because I think that also went to an extreme where we went from hustle culture is not cool to I'm not going to do shit. And I think,
Right.
there is that balance of, yeah, I do a lot of things I don't like to do. It's very unsexy. It's not fun. I eat the same food every single day. Same shit every single day. It's working for me. I don't have to stress about what I'm going to eat.
Yeah.
I know my protein's there. I've got, my rice and beef. That is 4 months
Sure.
now of that.
Yeah.
Not cool, but it's very simple. And it was taking everything backwards of, I was like, man, if I can't get up before 5 a.m., and now, I mean, I'm not up before 7 or 8. It's
Sure.
not happening. And, I just taking it back to like what's good for my nervous system,
Hmm.
getting off of this. I deleted all the apps.
Yeah.
Done. Because the doom scroll catches everybody. And I think
Yeah.
you're so spot on about just unplug and get back to what's natural. And that includes not just being outside, but like eating natural stuff, you
Sure.
know? Um, not to mention, I mean, that fast food everybody loves. I'm pretty sure it's human meat, but whatever. That's a different
Yeah.
show. So I
Um,
just,
I,
yeah,
I agree 100%. The idea is not to become a Buddhist monk. The idea is
yeah,
to use the technology and not let the technology use you.
Yeah.
And my whole point of it is the 1970s basically drew you towards health and sanity, but the
Yes.
environment that we've created in modern life is drawing you towards chaos and disorder.
Yes.
Just by the artificial lights and the phones and on all those sort of things. So you're literally going to have to choose, particularly parents with children. I see it here in Nicaragua with what the screens are doing to the kids, and they just came out with that big study that showed that intelligence goes down with screen time,
Yes.
especially in schools. Like kids need to read and write for real with like real books, and all these schools just spent billions of dollars or how much millions of dollars on getting tablets for everybody, and now they're realizing these countries like Sweden are going back to play-based learning, which kids learn through movement. And
Mhm.
I know for me, like, I feel much worse when I do multiple podcasts in a day
Yeah.
and multiple coaching calls where I'm sitting on my butt as
Yeah.
compared to where I'm working outside in the Nicaraguan heat with baseball practice for 4 or 5 hours. I
Yeah.
feel so much better with that than I do sitting and not moving.
Yeah. There has to be a balance. And I run, 5 interviews a day, and I had to pull back because I was doing it 5 days a week. And I'm like, this
Yeah.
isn't, I homeschool my kids as well. So
Well, good
I'm
for
like,
you.
yeah, this is not conducive to my environment. So I've skipped back to 2.5 days of being able to do it. And it's exactly that. Like I sit here, and once I'm done, I'm just like, man, like my body's just, it is a lot. It's a lot. And I
Yeah.
think, everything was kind of set up for that, but it is important getting kids back to the things. My husband and I talk all the time about, like, when we have two younger girls, four older kids. We've kind of lost. Two of them have moved out. They're on the phones. My both my boys have phones. But I say it all the time. The younger two are not. We're not going there with them. I
Yeah.
homeschool. They're with me all the time. It's not even necessary for them to be staring at a little phone all day long. So yeah, I kind of drew a line in the sand there, because
Good for you.
it's horrible to watch these kids. And I mean, I can watch a 4-year-old navigate an iPhone better than I can. It shouldn't be like that.
Well, and I'm not a parent, so
Yeah.
I'm not going to pass judgment, but
Yeah.
and it's so much easier to hand them a phone and just satisfy them than it is to, like, one. And the problem is too, the kids are sitting still, and so they're basically hypnotized by the phone. But kids are not. Like, one of the things I like about here in Nicaragua is they don't expect the kids to sit still. Like,
Yeah.
you'll be out in public and the kids are running around and stuff, and nobody's has a problem with it
Right.
as long as it's reasonable. But like, kids here will be climbing up and down the walls. In the United States, they'd call, like, I don't know, community support or somebody.
Yeah.
They call the police if a kid was climbing up a tree.
Correct.
So we were expecting kids to sit, particularly boys, all day,
Yep.
and they use the phone to hypnotize them.
Yeah.
And it's not going to end well. It's
No.
already not ending well.
Yeah.
So kudos to you for that. But the idea is not to become a Buddhist monk.
Yeah.
But the idea is understanding that the harder you drive your car, the more maintenance you have to do on it,
Yep.
right? And so, like, after this interview, I'll sit for 5 or 10 minutes and just slow my breathing down. And
Yeah.
because when I worked with a lot of hairdressers and a lot of teachers when I was in Lexington, and that was the common theme, and for me too as a coach, like, talking all day,
Yeah.
it's exhausting. Like,
It
mouth
is.
breathing and talking, you're
Yeah.
exhausted at the end of the day, and so you need to put that energy back in.
Yep.
I call it working in. I stole that from a guy named Paul Check. But you got to put that energy back in, and part of that is learning how to lower your aura and your nervous system.
Yes.
And a lot of people get stuck in that. They're driving on the autobahn all day,
Yep.
or in Montana at 120 miles an hour, and then they pull off into a school zone, and they have to drive 15 miles an hour, and they're literally pulling their hair out.
Yeah.
Obviously, all mine's gone, but um, like, they're literally uncomfortable. And I had to do, like, in '08, I had to do something called neurofeedback, binaural beats, like a brain map, to teach my brain actually how to relax, because I
I
had
love
done
that.
so many stimulants and I'd trained like a maniac and
Yes.
all the loud music, and my brain was not comfortable relaxing, and I had to
Yeah.
relearn how to do that. And I got that from a friend of mine who actually was in a combat injury in Iraq, and he had PTSD, and that was one of the things with float tank that he did to get himself back in order. And I had to do the same thing. I had to do float tank, and I had to do neural
Yeah.
feedback. to teach my body to actually chill.
Yeah. Well, I think that's important, and I'm glad that's something that both men and women can agree they all need to do. It's just
Yes.
if you can't sit quietly for 10 minutes without fidgeting or looking at your phone, I mean, that's a sign. That's a big
It's
sign
it's
right
a
there.
it's a big and it's a big sign.
Yeah.
And like I said, that happened naturally in the 1970s. It just happened. You know, you sat at the
Yep.
dinner table together as a family. You were bored. I remember, being out, and I was probably late 70s, early 80s, playing in the sandbox. Like,
Yeah.
no entertainment, just,
Yep.
you know, drawing for hours. Riding my bike for hours.
Yeah.
Nobody does that kind of stuff anymore. You just
No.
constantly have to be entertained.
Yeah. And I even feel that like yesterday was our first beach day of the season and I forgot my book. And so I'm
Mm.
sitting there when my girls are playing in the water and I started to panic a little bit cuz I'm like what the hell am I going to do? Just sit here? And I'm like,
Yeah,
"Oh my gosh, I get to just sit here." And
I know.
so it was so great. It took a second. I was like, "Whoa." I didn't have anything in that moment, but it's nice and it's just that awareness, right? It's not an overnight thing. It's not like, you flip a switch and suddenly you can just sit with yourself. There's a lot of moments and seasons where you have to talk yourself through it. I think that's incredible. We talked about the extreme of, high achievers and
Hmm.
people that are just always going, 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 doing the most. I kind of want to hit the opposite before we're done
Sure.
today.
Hmm.
Is why do you think people quit on themselves so quickly?
Well, I think I think a lot of people, from a fitness perspective, I think people look at what's going on social media and they see these people having to do all these extreme things, extreme workouts. They see them taking all these different things and they're doing a cold plunge and they're doing this and they're just overwhelmed. They're like, they don't realize how simple it is to be healthy. Like,
Yeah.
if you want to look good and feel good, it's walk outside three. It's just the five fundamentals I listed off: protein at every meal,
Yep.
get the lights off at night, lift weights a couple times a week, and walk. You don't need to be like Peter Attia says and max your VO2 max out and do all. You don't have to do that. Like, if your goal is to just look good and feel good, um, if you look at super centenarian research, people that have lived over 100 years old,
Yeah.
high performer, high athlete, like if you consider gardening a high athletic performance thing,
Yeah.
high achievers do not live the longest.
No.
Okay. So if most people understood, if they just ate real food, if they just lifted some weights a couple times a week,
Yeah.
and they got outside more, they would look and feel much better. They don't have to do crazy workouts like a Navy SEAL.
Yeah.
They don't have to eat they don't have to eat like once a day, or they don't have to do any of the crazy fasting.
Yep.
Just eat real food, chew your food, slow down, chew your food up. Don't just like plow through it.
Inhale it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's gonna keep it's gonna destroy your appetite regulation. But if you just do a simple few things consistently over time, you're gonna be amazed at how much better you feel, look, and perform. And you don't have to take it to. And most people that are sitting on the couch are looking at these crazy people. That most of those people aren't healthy either. Like,
No.
so that if you look at the fittest people on Instagram, they're not healthy.
No.
There's one guy that's actually a friend of mine who's a strength and conditioning coach at a very high level, just had a triple bypass,
Yeah.
so, and he looks like a Greek god. He's ripped, he's got abs, he's got veins coming out of everywhere.
Right.
So, performance does not equal health. And so the people that are uh, lack motivation, so to speak,
Yeah.
they look at all the people that are being glorified, and they look at all the crazy stuff they have to do, and they're like, I don't want to do that. I'd rather just sit on the couch. And
Exactly.
so that's the two extremes that you have. And one of the things I like to do is I like to give people things that are actually actionable.
Yes.
And one of my favorite things is just put the tongue in the roof of your mouth and slow your breathing down. Like, when people talk about breathing drills and all this stuff, most of these things people are not going to do. But if I tell you, when you're in the car and you're driving, put the tongue in the roof of your mouth and slow your breathing down, or you're in Walmart, or you're in Whole Paycheck, or you're in Trader Joe's, or wherever you're at, just put the tongue. Or if you're listening to me while I'm talking, just put the tongue on the roof of your mouth, slow your breathing down, and be present. It's something you can constantly do throughout your day and help calm your nervous system. It'll help you keep from breathing with your neck. Something like that over the course of a year, that's hundreds of thousands of breaths that you're
Yeah.
breathing less. That's hundreds of thousands of less stress hours. And that's just something simple that you can do every day that most people just totally ignore.
Yeah. And you guys could do it from the couch. Like if that's where you are right now, if you're in the season of the couch and you're watching this curated Instagram bullshit and you can't relate to that and you don't know what the first thing to do is, I
Yeah.
swear that's a great start. Like
Just
just
go outside.
yeah.
Just get outside. If you even if you can walk for 3 minutes,
Yeah.
Well, that's one of the problems with the U.S. is that the lifestyle doesn't depend on walking. It's all about cars. It's all about
Mhm.
um, you know, having food delivered to you. Here in Nicaragua, you got to walk places. Like you just can't. You know, most
Yeah.
people need to walk. Most people, all the cities are designed for walking. Most of the restaurants are outside because they can't afford to pay the electricity bill because
Yeah.
electricity here is actually really expensive. So they don't have air conditioning. So you have to eat outside. So,
Wow.
that's a lot of things that are positive, and a lot of people are really struggling in the US because they never have to leave their couch.
Exactly.
They just scroll, or order DoorDash and Uber Eats and all the rest of it, and it just comes to your door. And they never go outside. I think 93% of Americans don't go outside at all during the day.
It's
Whereas most
heartbreaking.
people in Central America or
Out.
Europe and places like that, they spend the majority of their day outside.
Yeah. Exactly. I unfortunately I think we've become useful idiots. Truly. Like we're
Yes.
funding big pharma. We're funding all the stuff that's going to just keep feeding us all the toxic lifestyles. So I think it's very very great advice, Jim. Just get outside.
Create a problem
Yeah,
and provide the solution and get
always.
paid.
Yeah.
I really wish I was unethical because I just I can't do it. But I wish I could
Yeah.
have, energy drinks, things like that are basically you're creating a lifetime customer because the kids start drinking the energy drink
Yep.
young, and then they need more caffeine and more caffeine and more caffeine and more caffeine and
Always.
more nicotine and more nicotine and more nicotine. And not that the nicotine has its place, it definitely is very useful.
Yeah.
Um, but all of a sudden you're just, like you look at the energy drinks, they've gone from 70, 50 to 75 milligrams of caffeine to 100, 120, 150. Now some of them are 400 milligrams of caffeine.
I mean, look at heart problems in kids, and it's not just from the jab. I think it's because of the chemical drinks and all the things we've added to that,
Absolutely.
especially
And
the compounds.
you think about it, you look at blood pressure rates all over the
Mhm.
world, they're skyrocketing. Why? Because guess what regulates blood pressure? Nitric oxide you get from the sun,
Yeah.
right? And then
No.
if you're a mouth breather, you're producing even less nitric oxide. That's one of the nice things about slowing your breathing down and breathing through your nose is you produce more nitric oxide, which open things up and lower blood pressure.
Yeah.
So, it's just we're just indoor zoo humans. We become zoo animals,
Yeah.
indoor zoo humans, complacent, compliant consumers. And it's
Yep.
up to you to basically say, hey, I'm not gonna live like this. I'm gonna make some choices. I'm gonna build some habits, and it's hard for me too. Like I get sucked into this stuff. It's not
Oh
easy.
yeah.
It's powerful. It's powerful
Yep.
stuff. I
It
mean,
is. It very much is. And it does take just a couple little habits, like you said, like simply just breathing. After a year that compounds and it builds something incredible. So it shouldn't be an overwhelming decision. It should just be like, wow, this conversation made me uncomfortable. Like I don't want to be a useful idiot. I don't want to be a prize consumer. I don't want to be a zoo animal, and just make the next right choice. I think you really
right.
served my audience and spoke to them today. I want to ask you a fun question before I close us out. Um, you've worked as a bodyguard, a bouncer, you
Mhm.
trained at Westside Barbell, you've coached pro athletes, you're coaching
Right.
baseball. Um, you've worked with a lot of people, so I know you've collected a lot of stories. So, what is the
Right.
craziest story you're allowed to legally to share?
Oh boy.
Legally and morally. I don't want you to get in trouble
Oh,
though.
I've got some stories from Mexico when I was working in Tucson that I'm going to keep to myself that are pretty wild. Um, there's just so many
Yeah.
stories. I mean, I was around some really crazy people like Louis Simmons at Westside Barbell. I've been actually, I'll tell you kind of a funny story actually.
Okay.
I worked in Aspen for a long time. Um, I worked at the St. Regis Hotel, and we used to have the HBO Comedy Festival there. And we had at one point Seinfeld, Robin Williams, um, Bill Cosby for whatever that's worth. All the big celebrities. One of the most hated celebrities by at least normal people is Mariah Carey. Uh, Cindy Crawford is incredibly friendly and beautiful. Even at 3 in the morning, I had to bring stuff up to her room.
Yeah.
Her baby boy at the time was like puking everywhere, and she had like a,
Oh,
what you call a wife beater on or whatever,
yeah.
vomit all over her, and I'm just standing there going, God, this is like one of those beautiful, like no makeup, 3 o'clock in the
Yeah.
morning. She was incredibly cool. Robin Williams is really, really funny. He was throwing snowballs at people and hitting them in the head, and people would be like all upset, and they turn around and see it's
See
Robin
who it
Williams,
was.
and they'd be like, "Oh, Robin Williams." One time, so we were at the St. Regis has this 5-star hotels have this big tunnel that they have to have, and so this snowboard instructor, I think he was from New Zealand, he had this brown Honda Civic, like the old hatchback Civics, like the old '80s Civics. I don't know if you know what I'm talking
I
about, but it
do.
was it was crap brown, and it had rust holes in the bottom. You could see the ground as you drove by. So he had like wire mesh with like cardboard in there to keep like to hide it. And he came around the corner into the drive, and we're all just like, there's like, you know, Range Rovers and
Right.
freaking, McLarens and whatever else. He like comes in, and it's literally like smoking up the whole front drive. And he gets out, and he's like, I'm like, dude, I'm like the head doorman, and of course I know the GM of the hotel is not going to want this car sitting here.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, we can put this thing away. Like, we'll get you a limo. He's like, I'm here to pick up Robin Williams. Like, yeah, we got a shuttle for you. Robin Williams comes bouncing down. He's got this like kind of beanie on that looks like a giant condom,
Yeah.
and he's like flopping around. He's just doo 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 doo. He comes out. He's like, and the New Zealand kid comes up and says, "Hey, I'm here for your snowboard lesson." He says, "Great." He goes, "Where's your car?" He goes, "It's over there." And I'm like, "Oh, Mr. Williams, you don't need to. You don't need. We got a shuttle for you over here." He's like, "Oh, no big deal, man." Goes over, fucking hops in this little piece of shit Honda Civic with
Love
rust
it.
freaking all over it. And he's like, "Come on!" He sticks his head out. He's like, "Come on, man, let's go!" And
That's
the
great.
kid gets in the car, fires it up, freaking smoke, backfiring, goes pulling down the street. He's waving at people driving by. He's driving in this like piece of crap Honda Civic, and he just didn't care. He
Yeah.
didn't give a rat's ass, which I thought was hilarious because everyone else, would have been like, "Oh my God,
Horrified.
I'm not getting in that car,"
Yeah.
and I reacted the same way too. I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this car's embarrassing." Like, there's no, and he
Yeah.
didn't care, and so he was a lot of fun. He was very nice. We had some very nice celebrities that stayed at our hotel. There was a few that were, I won't mention, that were pretty asshole-ish, but
Stereotypical. Yeah.
stereotypical. One of them was a world-class female tennis player with a very fancy name, and she was an
Oh,
absolute. She
nightmare.
was terrible,
Yeah.
nightmare. Especially if you were a male. She just did not want to talk to men at all.
Wow.
Um, so she was not friendly to be around. But most people were really cool. I had a lot of fun in Aspen. I really enjoyed being there. But um, yeah, I've had a lot. There's so many things that I've been very lucky. I've done a lot of things. Like being here in Nicaragua, I got to work with for Dusty Baker, getting the Nicaraguan national team ready for the World Baseball Classic. That was a lot of fun.
Nice.
So my drive down here was a wild adventure. I drove from Florida down through Mexico, through Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, um, Nicaragua. It was a wild drive. So I drove down here about 2.5 years ago, which was pretty wild.
That sounds like an incredible adventure. Any plans to leave there? Or are your roots planted?
That's a good question. I've got a lot of stuff going on. I've got to make some pretty big decisions here in the next little while.
Yeah.
I like it here, but I'm having to spend way too much time online. Um,
Ah,
I need to reorganize some things, and we'll see. But I like it here. It's just I moved here to work less, and I'm actually working more than I ever have. So
okay.
I need to reorganize some things, and I need to kind of reprioritize, and I got myself into a situation where I'm working a lot,
Yeah.
and so I've got to kind of reassess some things.
Flip the script. And I think you have the experience and the awareness. You know exactly what you need to do. And
Right.
I mean, The crazy thing is, it sounds like you've been on a lot of adventures, and I mean, change is always uncomfortable, and that's the whole point of it. I mean,
Sure.
that's the point of
Well, the
it.
thing is too that you got to know, like, okay, when do you weather the storm,
Uh huh.
and when is it time to move on? And that's really hard.
Yeah.
Because if I knew about what I know now about community and everything else that I know now, I might have stayed in Kentucky and maybe just went to Mexico or something like that in the wintertime. I would get
Yeah.
really bad seasonal affective disorder. Maybe I would have stayed in Kentucky and just lived a month in Florida or in Mexico
Yeah.
or here in Nicaragua just in the wintertime just to get more sun and get
Yeah.
away from because Kentucky winters are horrible. It's kind of like being
I'm
in
in
Seattle.
Michigan, my friend, so I would disagree.
I grew up in northern Canada.
Okay.
Um, I'm perfectly fine with 40 below zero.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I grew up in Edmonton. In Michigan, the thing about Michigan is you can go ice fishing, you can go snowmobiling,
Ah, there you go.
you
Okay.
can do things outside. You can play hockey, you can go curling. I don't know if you curl there, but we curling in Canada. In Kentucky, it's rarely freeze. It's muddy and yucky and rainy. Like
Ah,
you can't go cross country skiing. You can't go snowshoeing.
yeah.
Um, it's just gross. It's you go mudding once or twice and that's it. But like
Right.
you can't do the winter sports like you can, and it's
Yeah.
gray. In Michigan, it's cold, but it's bright and sunny. You feel good, right? Or
Not
like
very
in
often, actually.
well, that's weird. But in
Yeah.
Edmonton or in Colorado, um,
Colorado's the Sunshine State. I
but
mean,
I,
yeah,
I
definitely.
guarantee I guarantee you though, I guarantee you it's sunnier in Michigan than it is in Lexington. I guarantee. The
Awesome. Yeah, I
Ohio
never would have
River
thought that.
the Ohio River Valley is like a giant armpit,
Wow.
and it's just it rain. Like me. I could count on one hand the number of sunny days in the winter that I can remember. So I would
Yeah.
I would say that it's probably sunnier in Michigan, but at least in Michigan you can go catch
Do
walleye.
stuff. Yes.
You can catch walleye and you can eat the cheeks off the walleye,
Yeah.
which you fry them in butter. It's just absolutely phenomenal. So you can't do that in Kentucky.
No. Well, I'm excited for your next adventure. I think it's amazing. If people want to follow you or get resourced with you, how can they find you right now?
My website, Vitality Brotherhood, is probably the best place to go. I have two communities: a school community for men and women, where I basically, try and keep people accountable and kind of help people get themselves going in the right direction. I do some coaching as well, which you can check out on my website. But I'm on all the social platforms for now. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where you can check me out.
Perfect. Jim, this is the part of the show where I'm going to tell you what I think makes you special. And it's not the athletes or the superstars or the championships. It's not even the decades of experience. It's the fact that you live both sides of this conversation. You have pushed too hard. You've been knocked down. You have rebuilt from ground zero and you've figured things out the hard way. And now I think it's incredible that you take this opportunity to help people understand that success isn't about grinding yourself into the ground. It is about that alignment, about consistency, ownership, responsibility, the very simple, basic human needs. Getting people back to that space, I think, is an incredible conversation, and how important it is to do the simple things long enough for them to matter. I think that's incredibly powerful. Your work is amazing. For you guys listening, you probably don't need another podcast. You probably don't need another book. You don't need another productivity hack. You know exactly what needs to happen. And the question is, will you do it? Because transformation isn't usually found in more information, it's found in implementation. God gave you a body, a mind, a purpose. Take care of all three. Be willing to be honest, be disciplined, be resilient. And please remember that your mess is your message. Even the setbacks, even the burnout, even the health scares, the chapters where you had to start over. Sometimes those become the very lessons that you're meant to teach. If this episode spoke to you, please share it out with someone who needs it. If you guys are ready for the hot seat, I dare you to come tell me why you're special. And Jim, I just want to say thank you for being a caged animal for my show. You definitely serve my audience. I appreciate your
I,
time.
I'm outside, so
Oh, perfect. Well,
yeah, I
thanks
do.
for
I
sitting
do.
still long enough
I
for
do
me.
all. I do all my interviews outside. I don't do. I don't. You can see I'm out.
That's
So now
amazing.
I'm out here. See, I
That's
don't.
amazing.
I don't
I'm in
do
the city.
anything. I don't do anything indoors at all,
I love
except
it.
except sleep. So
Yep. I love that. Well, I appreciate your time today. Thank you so much for
thank you.
speaking to my people.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Take care.